Good evening. Thank you everyone for attending tonight's webinar with Dr. Sam Trychin. Dr. Trychin is a psychologist in private practice and provides consulting services to Stairways Behavioral Health. Sam serves as a professional advisor to HLAA in the area of mental health and is a member of the Pennsylvania Governor's Advisory Council for persons who are deaf or hard of hearing. Sam has written 15 books, authored several professional book chapters, and produced a variety of DVDs focused on strategies for living better with hearing loss. He and his wife Janet, an audiologist, frequently conduct workshops and training programs together. Many of you know the Trychins from HLA conventions. As a faculty member of the IDA Institute in Denmark, Sam works to support the mission of the Institute to promote a better understanding of hearing loss around the world. Further information about Dr. Trychin and his program Living with Hearing Loss can be obtained at www.trychin.com. Thank you, Sam, for presenting tonight, and thank you to Deanna Baker for providing cards. Without further delay, please welcome from my hometown of Erie, Pennsylvania, Dr. Sam Trychin.
Hello. Thank you, Nancy, for that nice introduction. Appreciate that. We are sitting here in my office in Erie, Pennsylvania. Janet is sitting here with me, and she's trying to get in. Oh, hi. So here we are, and we're going to talk tonight about communication issues related to hearing loss and how hearing loss affects a variety of communication issues. And also I want to say at the outset, have a happy holiday season for everybody who's in attendance. We have several holidays coming up, and it's usually a fairly joyous time for many families. And we're going to talk a little bit about family gatherings and hearing loss as we go on. And most time when people talk about communication, they're considering social communication, meaning how people interact with each other. So basic human conversations are usually the issue. But hearing loss affects other types of communication as well. And so it's really good for all of us to be aware of that fact. Physical environment, for example, we are all born into the physical universe that we live in. Our brains develop out of interactions with that social and physical environment in which we find ourselves. And we are in contact with that physical environment all the time. And much of the information that our brain receives is not at the conscious level, it's an unconscious level. And so when we get separated in some way, when we are out of touch, if you will, with the physical environment, that can produce some problems. And the kind of problems it produces tend to reside in the third type of communication that we'll talk about a little bit tonight. And that is communication within the various systems inside of our skin. So our heart is in communication with the brain is in communication with the respiratory system. All of those systems are involved with the immune system, the digestive system. So when the physiological mechanisms within our bodies are out of sync, it's bad for health and it's bad for longevity. So we'll be talking a little bit more about that type of communication as well. And the most important point is that hearing loss can adversely affect how we function socially, how we function in the physical environment in which we live, and it can affect also how our internal systems are operating. If you look for hearing loss in the public health census comes out, I think, every 10 years. If you look in that document for hearing loss, it appears under the category of communication disorders. And for most of us who have hearing loss, that's our essential issue, is the inability to, or a reduced ability to understand what other people are saying, to stay in tune with important environmental signals and cues. But for some people who have hearing loss, there are other issues. Relatively few people. They have, maybe Meniere's disease that goes with the hearing loss. They may have neuromas, a variety of different physiological conditions that exacerbate the effects of hearing loss. But for most of us, we're concerned with the communication issues. Difficulty often understanding what other people are saying is paramount, both in the home situation, at work, and for the upcoming holidays, that's often a source of pain for many people who have hearing loss, and for their communication partners, which we'll be talking about in a little bit here. When we talk about communication disorders or communication problems as related to hearing loss, there's a tendency to think about the person who has the hearing loss as having the problem. But it's more complex than that. Everybody in the communication situation is affected by hearing loss. So when Janet, for example, says something to me and I don't understand her, I have a problem, but so does she. So we like to look at the hearing loss as our problem, not just my problem. And it's interesting, we have collected over time a variety of problem situations related to hearing loss reported by people who have hearing loss and also reported by their communication partners. And guess what? The lists are equal length. Both sides are affected by communication breakdowns that result from hearing loss. So one of the issues that we always talk about, and that we have books that we've written and DVDs on this issue, it's important to look at hearing loss as an interactive problem, because both sides, the person speaking and the person listening, contribute to communication breakdowns. And both sides, the cooperation of both sides is necessary for preventing or reducing communication breakdowns. So it really is, hearing loss is a systems issue, not an individual person's issue. The holidays are around the corner. So family gatherings are difficult for many people who have hearing loss because they have difficulty understanding what people are saying. Sitting around the dining room table, for example, you may have 8 people, 10 people, 6 people, and everybody's talking at once and having a good time, and they're talking with turkey in their mouth and cranberry sauce or whatever they have. And it's just a great event for people, except if you have a hearing loss and you can't follow what's being said. So many people who are family members who are there also can feel uncomfortable when they know the person has a hearing loss and when they're aware of the fact that the person's not following what's being said. So the problem for many family members is that they just don't know what to do. They've never been told, they've never been informed, or they have great difficulty remembering to do it. You know, when you get caught up in the excitement of what you're saying or responding to somebody, it's very difficult at that moment to think about how you were talking. So it takes practice. It takes a lot of good information about what to do. Situations need to be set up in such a way as to prevent or reduce communication hassles. And we'll talk about that in a moment. There are really 8 key strategies that we talk about for surviving and having a good time, by the way, at family gatherings, during holidays or at other times. What we recommend is this. Often you know who's going to be at the family event. It's not a bad idea to write a brief note to people before, a week or so before the gathering. A brief note, hi, it's going to be great to see you. Haven't seen you for a while. We hope you're okay. We hope that everybody's well. And then get into a little bit about, remember that I have a hearing loss, or Sam or Janet or whoever has a hearing loss and really needs to be able to see your face to understand what you're saying, and just be aware that when everybody's talking all at once, he's not going to follow up, or not going to be able to follow what the conversation is about. So a few hints just to remind people ahead of time about the hearing loss. Another second suggestion that we have that works for some people is to place some what-to-do signs around the house. Little signs like, Sam has a hearing loss. It would be really helpful if you would slow down when you're talking to him a little bit, or remember to try not to talk to Sam from behind his back because of his hearing loss. So a few signs like that around the house, and they can be stated in a fun way. And if you put them on a sign on the toilet seat, everybody will see it there, so that's a good place to put one. You could wear a t-shirt that has some communication guidelines on it. I have one right here. You probably can't read it, but this is a t-shirt. It's got for Christmas time because it's got holly leaves on it here. And then if you can see, there's some writing. And so I have 12 guidelines. This is a t-shirt that says guidelines for speaking to a person who has hearing loss. So in the front, it's got the list of the 12 guidelines. It's just reminders for people about what's helpful. And on the back, it says, Happy Holidays, and happy 2 ears. And it says, please come around the front to talk to me because I have a hearing loss. Right? So, and another shirt that we have is similar, only this one contains the 12 guidelines for the person who has hearing loss. So, obviously, for the communication partners, you don't need to have the please come around the front to talk to me. But those kind of things can be fun, and they present, reminders to people that are unobtrusive. They're not threatening. They're not demanding. It's just a fun thing to do. The fourth suggestion that we have is maybe to make some appointments with individual family members to catch up. If you know it's going to be difficult for you if 8 or 10 people are sitting in a room or around a table talking, maybe it's a good idea to make some appointments with individuals. Just write in your note to people saying, George, haven't seen you for a couple of years. I'd like to catch up, and do you think we could get together on Friday from 2 to 3, or whatever the day, whatever the time is that works? You can do that with a couple of people to make sure that you have one-on-one, or maybe a couple you could meet with. Another one is to just think about ahead. The fifth one is to anticipate what might be a problem for you at the family gathering. Anticipate what the house is going to look like. where people are going to be meeting, gathering. And what could you do? What could you do to prevent communication breakdowns in that particular environment? 6, we recommend practice some relaxation tactics before and during the event. Beforehand, if you can, instead of getting all anxious about anticipating problems, think about just breathing, relaxing, taking it easy. Get yourself in a nice calm state before you ever get into the situation. And while you're in there, if you find out you're having some difficulty, practice some breathing and relaxation tactics on the spot right there. The other thing is to use assistive listening devices as well. If you have a pocket talker, that can be very helpful, or an FM system or whatever. If you can manage to have a dining area looped, that can be a help. So take advantage of the equipment that's available. And finally, smile a lot. Janet is a good purveyor of smiling. And smiling does lots of things. The facial feedback from your facial muscles to your brain when you smile is very positive, and it releases all kinds of good neurochemistry in your brain. And also, other people, when you smile at them, their brain picks that up through mirror neurons, and it makes them feel better as well. So smiling is a great way of reducing distress for yourself and for other people as well. So that's what we're talking about in terms of social communication between and among people. And the second category we want to talk about a little bit is physical environment communication. Our survival, our ability to stay alive, relies on being in tune with the physical environment in which we live. I mean, some obvious examples are, if you don't hear well and you step out into the street, and there's a car coming, you didn't hear it, that could be bad for your health, right? So there's lots of obvious examples about not hearing the emergency vehicle siren in your car while you're driving, and all of a sudden there it is right in front of you, or you may hear it but not be able to locate where it is in space. So those are obvious examples, but we're born with a variety of sensory receptors. We have taste, we have smell, we have vision, we have hearing, we have touch. Every one of those keeps us in constant touch with the environment. Much of that attunement with the physical environment occurs at below the level of conscious awareness. But it's just how we stay alive and how we stay well is being constantly aware, not aware at a conscious level, but consciously in tune with what's happening physically around us. And in some respects, hearing is the most essential of all of our sensory systems. And the reason for that is that the speed of incoming messages, auditory signals from the environment, that goes from your ear to your brain a lot faster than does information from the other senses reach your processing centers of the brain. So it's the quickest, fastest reacting sense that we have. It also keeps us in tune with the environment 24 hours a day. Even when you're sleeping, your auditory system is functioning and picking up anything that sounds unfamiliar, novel, different, and you respond to that. You wake up. But also hearing provides information about events that occur in the distance, even when it occurs around the corner or behind us. So it's 360 degrees. So hearing loss, when you're short on the ability to stay in tune with a lot of auditory information provided by the environment, that can produce a kind of a chronic level of tension or perhaps anxiety for people who have hearing loss. But to think about it, hearing loss as a communication disorder affecting everyone, our lessened ability to stay in tune with the physical environment can produce some apprehension for communication partners as well. Now, it's more obvious when we think about it in terms of parents of children, babies, young children, teenagers who have hearing loss. You're concerned about what happens to them out in the playground, what happens to them among their peers, what happens to them in traffic. Will they hear the signals they need to hear in order to survive well? But also can be the same for children of older parents, and the older parents don't hear as well. So those communication partners can have concern about how well will this individual, the older mom or dad, how well will they do out and around in the environment if they're not picking up a lot of the environmental cues and signals in a household. For example, if mom is not able to hear the sound of the alarm going off, or even the alarm that goes off for alarm clock, or for even a stove is finished, that kind of thing. Or now the information that comes from various electronic devices that we operate around the house, if not able to stay in tune with those signals, can that present a risk, a danger? So it can be loss of contact in some way with the physical environment can be a concern to communication partners as well as to people who have hearing loss. So there's a couple strategies and tactics that can be very helpful in staying tuned with environmental signals or cues. Use assistive listening equipment. It's obvious. Hearing aids, cochlear implants, FMs, personal amplifiers, infrared devices, induction loops, all of that help us get signals, get information that we might otherwise miss. But also use assistive alerting devices, visual and tactual aids, so that if somebody knocks at the front door or the doorbell rings, that the lamps around the house flash on and off. The light goes on and off, alerting the person who has hearing loss that that event is happening. You could also get and use hearing dogs. Can be very helpful for alerting us to environmental events that we are missing. Practicing mindfulness relaxation strategies helps in increasing attention, alertness to external events. The calmer we are, the more in tune we are with things that are going on around us. It's very clear that when we are emotionally aroused, upset, that our ability to respond to environmental signals goes way down, as does our ability to process information and think clearly. When we're upset, we don't think as clearly as we do when we're calm and relaxed. You can also practice fine-tuning visual capacities by practicing visual attention to environmental events. Get some games that rely on visual responding. some computer games that really force you to do more fine-tuning of visual discrimination. That can be a help. Again, another one is to anticipate significant environmental changes and plan what you can and what you will do. What's going to happen as environments change? As you move from one place to another in a room, that's an environmental change. As you move from your home to the car, from your car to a restaurant, all of that. What is it that's going to be environmental signals or sounds that change that you will need to respond to? So anticipation, planning ahead is very important. And then finally, get enough sleep and get some exercise, get the proper diet. All of these things contribute to your overall awareness of what's going on around you and what's going on inside your skin. We need to know about that as well. Then, so now we're into, and we talk about what's going on, awareness, increasing awareness of what's going on inside of our skin. Now we're talking about physiological communication. So social and environmental communication problems, when it's difficult to stay connected to other people because of hassles with understanding what they're saying, or if you have difficulty staying tuned into the environment so you don't feel as safe and comfortable even in your own home as you would if you had normal hearing, that can produce elevated levels of emotional arousal, and that's often manifested as anxiety or fear, or for some people, irritation and anger. So you find some people who have hearing loss are kind of chronically irritable or chronically anxious. And what underlies that are changes in your physiology, and changes in a variety of systems within your body. So when communication difficulties are frequent, or if they cause significant damage to important relationships, either at home or at work or among friends, they can result in emotional depletion. You know, if you're anxious over a period of time, or irritable, angry over a period of time, it can result in depleting your whole system, which gets manifested then as depression. So these anxiety, anger, depression, all of those are basically physiological changes that's happening inside the body that are not good for health or well-being. And what happens when there's fairly high levels of emotional arousal and or chronic levels of emotional arousal? A person's anxious a lot or irritable, angry a lot, is that it shuts down. When you have high emotional arousal, it shuts down the language centers of the brain. And when that happens, you can't think straight. So if you get into a communication situation that's difficult to start with, and then you get emotionally aroused, you start to feel badly, you start to feel anxious or angry about the situation, and that serves to shut down your language centers of your brain, and you can't think straight. How do you solve the problem? So that's why we like people to do a lot of, put a lot of effort into learning how to control emotional reactivity through breathing procedures, through muscle relaxation, however you want to do that. There's a variety of procedures around, but it's important that we are able to do that so that we don't damage our health over time by what happens is when you get high emotional arousal that's intense and or chronic, is it produces a lot of cortisol in your body. And cortisol, high levels of cortisol in your system is related to every known disease that we have. So that's why we like to have people calm and relaxed, so that they are producing sufficient DHEA, or the anti-aging hormone, instead. So what happens is, when you're in a situation that's difficult to understand, and then you get into a high emotional arousal that then produces lots of uncomfortable physiological changes, lots of uncomfortable changes in the body, there's a tendency to want to avoid that situation in the future in which you experience that, or to, and also to escape, to get out of it as fast as you can. So for lots of people, family gatherings, when you have a hearing loss, can be difficult, and a lot of people just avoid going to them. They just stop going to them. Or they decide, well, we'll go for a few minutes, we'll go for an hour, and then we'll leave. So that avoidance and escape behavior in and of itself is potentially very dangerous. So there's a concept of social pain. And social pain occurs when we feel separated from a significant person or significant group of people. When we feel like we're different, when we feel like we don't belong, we feel like some loss of connection with somebody who's very important, or a group of people who are very important. And the issue with social pain is that it's real. There are neural mechanisms in the brain that respond to social loss in that sense in the same way that the brain responds to physical pain. Some of the same neural pathways are activated when we feel rebuffed, or if we feel left out, or if we feel put down, or we feel isolated from other people. Same physical, neurological mechanisms are activated when we feel physical pain. So, and it's interesting that people who are sensitive, more sensitive to physical pain, are also more sensitive to social pain. People who are less sensitive to physical pain are less sensitive to social pain. So there's a genetic factor in it. But one of the, two of the helps for social pain, one is humor. If you can laugh about situations instead of getting anxious or angry about them, that's a help. And the other benefit for social pain is social support. You have social support system somewhere, family. This is where HLAA is so important for so many people. It's a place where they feel they belong. They belong here. Other people understand them, accept them, want to be with them, whether that's in the national meetings, the national organization, the journals that come through the mail, or if it's at the annual national meetings. It's a very important organization for people who have hearing loss. So anyway, the avoidance of social situations that have been uncomfortable in the past, and or escaping from them, leaving them as quickly as you can, is dangerous and risky because when we self-isolate, when we isolate ourselves from other people, the consequences are loneliness. And loneliness produces depression on the one hand, but loneliness also is a public health problem, in that people who are lonely are sicker than people who are not lonely, and they die sooner than people who are not lonely. So it's really good to learn strategies and tactics for helping to understand better in social situations, and to practice them, so that you reduce the amount of misunderstandings or failures of understanding in the first place. And then also it's important to practice, to learn and to practice some relaxation, stress management types of strategies, so that when the communication breakdowns inevitably happen, as they will from time to time, that we don't have to get all bent out of shape and feel like, I don't want to be in these kind of situations any longer. We want to stay active with other people as long as we can. So in the long run, avoidance and escape strategies lead to, again, depression, increased mortality, and increased morbidity. People are sicker. So again, we talk about people who have hearing loss, and I wonder how many of you, I'd like to know, and we're not going to ask for that data now, but just for you to think about, how many of you are viewing this program with a communication partner? Are they with you? If they're not with you, why not? Because the hearing loss is affecting them as much as it's affecting you. So they can learn things that are beneficial for them as well as things that are beneficial for you. The other question I wanted to raise and for you to think about for yourself is, do you have a plan to avoid going to family gathering during the upcoming holidays due to hearing loss related problems? Does a communication partner not want to go because of your communication problems? Because communication partners are very sensitive, and if they see us in a situation where it's uncomfortable for us, they feel that discomfort as well. So sometimes they want us to avoid those situations too. So something to talk about within a family situation or whatever the relationship is with an intimate communication partner, is how we're going to deal with. Do we really want to avoid going? Can we do things to go and enjoy it? Or the other question I had was, if you're planning on going, are you thinking about staying till dinner's over and then leaving because it's difficult to stay? Issue to think about. And many times the source of the problem is not the hearing loss. I have to be straight about that. A lot of times the source of the problem is not the hearing loss. It's not knowing what to do to prevent or reduce communication breakdowns. And we have a list in the books that we have of, I think there's probably about 40 causes of communication breakdowns. And most of those causes are correctable. You can prevent them or you can reduce them. I mean, you can't reduce the hearing loss that you have unless you have some kind of surgery or medication or it's amenable to that. You can help it with assistive blessing devices, certainly. but there's a point at which that's it. But you can learn behaviors, communication behavior strategies and tactics that will minimize the number and amounts of and the duration of communication breakdowns that you experience. So, for the internal physiological issues, there are some strategies and tactics that we can do to keep ourselves healthy, safe, and in tune with the environment, in tune with our internal environment. So one of the things that we can do is learn to identify the causes of communication problems. There are speaker causes, things that the person is talking or is doing that cause problems. There are listener factors that relate to communication problems. If I'm not paying attention to you, I'm not going to understand you, right? And there are environmental factors that contribute to communication breakdown. So background noise we all know about. Distance from the source of the sound is another one. But there's a variety of those. So the three factors, once you know, once you can identify what the cause of a communication breakdown is in any situation, then you're in a position to be able to do something about it. If you don't know what the cause is, then you're helpless. You're helpless. So learn to identify the causes of communication breakdowns. Learn and practice communication guidelines for preventing or reducing communication problems. And we have them on the t-shirt here, for example, 12 guidelines for speakers, 12 guidelines for listeners. Identify and change any of your unhelpful reactions to communication problems. Because, you know, we have several things happening here. I move into a situation, somebody says something to me, I don't understand them. That's a problem. Then I want to know, why didn't I understand it? What caused that problem? What can I do to correct it? That's one half of the problem. The other half of the problem is that once that communication breakdown occurs, I'm going to react to it in some way, shape, or form. And the other person is going to react to it in some way, shape, or form. How we react to that communication breakdown is going to influence the next phase of our communication. So, for example, if I say, speak up, stupid, that's not in my own best interest for maintaining that relationship over the next period of time. So we have to be careful about what we do when communication problems occur. Both the people who have the hearing loss and their communication partners need to be aware of what's helpful, what's productive, and what's an unproductive reaction. And we have to learn how to model the communication behavior we want from other people. So if I want you to slow down when you talk, but I talk fast, I'm working against myself. I have to learn to slow my own rate of speech down so that it's understandable to me and so that other people will have a tendency to use that rate of speech as well. Learn and practice techniques for increasing your awareness of your physical and psychological reactions to the kind of stresses that are related to hearing loss. So what happens to you when you're in a communication situation that's difficult or problematic? What happens? What happens in your body? What are you thinking? What are you feeling? What are you doing? What are you saying? All those things, we need to know all of that about ourselves. We need to be detectives about ourselves. And then we need to learn and practice techniques for increasing and changing physical and psychological reactions to communication kinds of stressors. So, deep breathing is great practice. It's the basis of lots of meditation techniques, the basis of yoga, lots of things. That's one way. The muscle relaxation is another way. Yoga, Trychin, there's all kinds of procedures out there that one can use, but it takes practice to get good at it. So you have to learn them, practice them, and practice them when you're feeling good, so you can then use them in difficult situations. And use some of the tactics and strategies for enjoying holiday gatherings that we just presented in this webinar. Remember, we talked about, we had key strategies and tactics for all three types of communication issues that we face: social communication, communication with the physical environment, and communication with our internal environment. So, in my experience, I've been doing this work with people who have hearing loss since 1984. So how many years is that? Oh, that's a lot of years. And I've been doing group work in the mental health arena for as many years or longer. And what I find is that the key to success for all this stuff is practice, 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 and then practice some more. In other words, to just incorporate, the breathing procedures, for example, incorporate them into your daily life. When you drive in the car, you become aware of your breathing, moderate it. When you are sitting in a business meeting, become aware of your breathing and moderate that. Same with the muscle relaxation. When you notice that, something's happening here, I feel my leg muscles tightening up, what are some procedures you can use to loosen that up? Some nice thing, one of the best is to smile. It's interesting that if you put a pencil between your teeth, or if you put a pencil between your upper lip and your nose, you're activating different facial muscles. So that one puts your facial muscles in the same configuration as when you smile. This one puts your facial muscles into a frown configuration. So what happens is it's measurable differences in your brain with the chemistry, the neurochemistry that's released on this is opposite of what's released from this. So the simple act of smiling just changes what's happening in your brain. Another thing you can do if you feel kind of down and out is, if you can see that when do you ever do this? Yay, yay! When you're celebrating, when you're triumphant. So if you're feeling down, one of the things you can do is just put your physical body into the position of when you're feeling up. Because what happens is the muscle feedback to the brain is not at your conscious level, but it affects what's happening in your system, and it affects your mood, it affects how you feel about yourself, how you feel about your life. So just beware of a lot of these kinds of things. And I think I'm going to slow down for a minute here and see if anybody has any comment. If anybody's left, have they all gone? Has everybody absconded? Anyway.
Sam, I think you still have several listeners.
I'm here. Several? We have three left?
I don't know that anybody has asked a question yet, but I personally just wanted to comment that I found the slide about social pain to really hit home, as I've witnessed how social pain caused by hearing loss has really caused some isolation in my own family, most of whom have untreated hearing loss. So it's quite a struggle at holidays when we all gather, and there's many of us at the dinner table. This is really just great information as we head into the holidays. And Tony said that he has asked a question. Okay, Tony, I see it now. Tony asks, I want to get someone to teach relaxation techniques at my chapter. Where do I go to find someone?
Well, am I on? Well, one of the things I would recommend highly is going online and looking at heartmath.org or heartmath.com. I think it's .org. It's H-E-A-R-T-M-A-T-H. And they have a variety of procedures that can be helpful for learning how to do this kind of stress management with breathing and with other things. But let me ask, where do you live?
While he's responding, it is heartmath.org. It is heartmath.org.
Yeah. So, where does the person live?
Well, I guess we're waiting for Tony to respond. Michigan, he said.
Okay, the other thing is that I have a book and a DVD, and the book is called Relaxation Training, and it's got deep breathing and it's got breathing and deep muscle relaxation procedures, and there's a DVD that goes with it, and on the DVD I demonstrate the breathing procedures, and I demonstrate the deep muscle relaxation procedures, and the DVD is every word is completely open captioned on it. So if you're interested, you can look at Trychin.com and you can see how to access that.
Sam.
It would be nice if a chapter had copies of that, because then a variety of different people could use it.
Sam, the next question comes from Lisa Morello. My family has a habit of talking about me in front of me, thinking I can't hear it, but I have read their lips at times. What do you suggest to handle that tactfully?
Have you spoken to them about it, about the fact that you're aware of that they are talking about you to each other, and that you would like them, if they have something to say, to talk directly to you about what it is that they are saying?
We'll have to wait for her response, but in the meantime, Sam, she says yes, she has.
And what happened?
They just laughed and blew it off, she says.
How often is she with the family?
It is immediate family, she said, Sam, so it's a lot.
Well, I would suggest, if she can do it, if she could get people to go into some kind of a counseling arrangement with her, if she could get those people to also join her at HLAA chapter meetings.
One other person comments that I'm afraid to use my ALD. I want to, but I'm afraid of wearing the headphones and looking so geeky. And another comment about that, somebody says, I love it when my sister wears her headphones so we all remember she is hard of hearing.
Yeah, the headphones can be a nice signal. It's like wearing a T-shirt that says I'm hard of hearing. Come around the front to talk to me. It can be a good reminder for people.
Seems to me a lot of people are wearing technology on their heads these days, so don't be afraid to do it, right?
Everybody and his brother is wearing something.
Okay, let's see if anybody else has any questions. Okay, I think that might be it for questions, unless anybody has one pretty quickly. Again, thank you, Sam, so much for presenting tonight.
Welcome.
May everybody have a safe and very happy Thanksgiving, free of social pain. This webinar will be available for replay within a few days, so if your communications partner is not available to watch it with you this evening, hopefully you can get them to watch it with you on the replay. Thank you again. Sam, any parting words?
Thank you, Nancy, for moderating this whole thing. And if anybody has any other questions that come up later, they can always email them to me, and I will do my best to respond.
Go ahead and give your email address, Sam.
Yeah, it's Trychin at roadrunner.com. Sam Trychin is one word, all lowercase.
Very good. Thank you, Deanna, for putting that in there. Also, we do have a webinar survey available to get your feedback and ideas for future webinars, and that is available on the webinar page in the HLA portal. So thank you, everybody. I'm sorry, there's one more comment here. Peggy Ellerson from Boston says, I often think that when I build my own overall well-being, hearing loss and all, I can move in and out of these situations and have a good night. I walk around the block in the fresh air. It's a great de-stressor. And after I do it, I can go back into the fray and re-enter the party. Good idea, Peggy.
There's nothing like taking breaks when you need them.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, everybody, thank you so much again. And as I said, this webinar will be available for replay in a few days. And please, everybody, have a safe and very happy Thanksgiving. Thanks again, Sam. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.